How about in the outer sense? Are you seeing anything tangible coming out of this?
Yeah. My last book is called The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, and the premise of the book is that our ecological crisis, the last hours of oil that we're living in, we've got a 30-year oil supply left, and at current rates of consumption, and that our ecological crisis, the 50,000 people a day dying of starvation in the world, 120 species a day going extinct in the world, 10,000 tons of toxic waste being dumped into the air every single 24 hours, 200,000 acres of rainforest, that this is not the result of a failure of technology, and the solution isn't necessarily to be found in technology. This is a failure of culture. This is the consequence. Culture is a set of stories that we all agree to tell each other and pretend as if they're real. And our culture has a whole series of very dysfunctional stories in it, those being that humans are separate from nature and not dependent or interdependent upon it, that men are superior to women, that people are inherently evil, that children are items on an assembly line in a school. I mean, there's just this whole series of it goes way beyond that. And if you look at older cultures that have been through 100,000 years of human trial and error experimentation to figure out the right way to live sustainably and peacefully, you find that they have a completely different set of stories, that we are all one, that we are interpenetrated with nature, that God isn't in a box that we visit once a week, that's, spirituality and normal life are the same thing, that children are gods coming into the world and to be respected and loved. And what I kept hearing, what was so encouraging, what I heard from every discipline, was that same message, that the stories that we've been playing out in our disciplines, whether it's education or art or science or business, whatever it may be, that the stories that have been played out have been these old Cartesian worldview stories of the separateness of humans and the superiority of humans to everything else and from everything else, and that those stories have brought us to a point of crisis, and that it's time for new stories. And then His Holiness comes along and lays the new stories on us. Says, hey, the story is we're all one. Whatever I do to you, I've done to myself. And so it's in my best interest to be good to you, so that and not just you, but also the mosquito that's on my arm, and all sentient beings. And I think you could even expand that to say even and many Buddhists would, and probably His Holiness would, to even the seemingly non-sentient earth, that we're ripping up and stripping of minerals and things. And so what I saw, heard, and felt here with great certainty was that the awakening to the toxic stories that are rampant across our planet is widespread, is multi- and interdisciplinary, and is unstoppable. And when people awaken from the old toxic stories, like 100 years ago in the United States, we awakened from the story of slavery. Early in the century, we awakened from the story that women shouldn't vote. When people awaken from the toxic stories, then new stories come in to fill that void that are more appropriate and more healing. It may take time. I mean, we still have the vestiges of slavery in the United States. It will take time, but the process is engaged, and there's no turning back now in my mind, and that's extraordinarily encouraging to me.